Round 2, baby. Here we go. Semifinals. Fantasy football. Let's get ready for it. We're back with another episode of Fourth and Troll Fantasy, the most entertaining fantasy football podcast on the planet. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And we're here. 2 weeks away. You could win 2 weeks from now. You could be a fantasy champion. And we're going to help get you there. All right, it's going to be a good one. We're giving you 4 players you must start in your lineups. We're giving you 4 players you got to get out of your lineups. It's going to be a good one. 4 studs, 4 duds, 8 people. What more do you want? If you want more, actually tell us, because we're happy to hear you out. But we got a good one. We're going to talk about Thursday Night Football a little bit, because that was like the highest scoring, most boring, highest scoring game I've seen in a while. That was...
Yeah,
we'll briefly just touch on that and some of the outlook on that, and then we will get into things. So before we do all that, make sure you're following us on all our socials. Everything is linked down below. If you want to sign James Cook jersey, we're giving that away in 3 weeks in the new year. We are giving that away. It's going to be a good time. We are raffling that off to a random patron. So go over to our Patreon, patreon.com/4thandtrollfantasy. There you can join our community Discord as well. Always a good time in there. And we have merch, any last minute stocking stuffers or holiday gifts that you need, fourthandtrollstore.com. As
Cute
always,
girls
like subscribe, and ring the bell. Yep. and there's a little bit of, excuse me. Whoa. You said cute girls, and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Whoa.
I'm married to one.
Speed.
Yeah.
Got him. Nice.
There you go.
I will be.
As always, like, subscribe, ring the bell. Hell yeah. Not the same. We're not from Utah. It's not the same. Yeah, we're not from Colorado.
Well,
it's like
just lost all our Utah audience.
Yeah,
whatever.
Yeah, different or gained anyway. A lot more. Who knows? I don't know. Whatever. Some news to talk about, Wes, and then we'll jump into things. Yeah.
Speaking of Cousins, am I right? Kirk Cousins. It's on the bench. We all heard the news.
Yeah.
Big deal. Why now? I mean, they still have a shot. I don't understand. But Michael Penix Jr. is officially the starter. I guess what happens when you don't throw a touchdown for like 2 straight months. Michael Penix Jr. We'll see what happens with Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Maybe they're going to be in our episode. I don't know who Noah's studs and duds are, but we'll talk about that. I'll let you know. Kyle Pitts is not my stud or dud for the week, but I just wonder if he's going to get like 35 points for absolutely no reason because of Michael Penix. Who knows? A lot of quarterback news this week. My goodness. Why not change it up with 2 weeks left in the fantasy football season? Dorian Thompson-Robinson is officially named the starter in place of Jameis Winston. He's playing against Cincinnati Bengals. I'm starting the Cincinnati Bengals defense in one league just for that excitement. The Titans have benched Will Levis in place of Mason Rudolph. We talked about that last episode of what are the Titans going to do for the quarterback position next season. Already looking at what they have with Mason Rudolph. Drew Lock practiced fully. He is starting. He's back under center against the Falcons. Look for that Drew Lock, Michael Penix showdown. That's going to be great. Spencer Rattler is going to start for the Saints, officially starting against the Packers this week. Okay, here we go. 49ers news. Have you heard they've had some injured players this year? No Christian McCaffrey. No Jordan Mason. No Isaac Guerendo. Now it's going to be Patrick Taylor as the starter, the 4th string running back. That's right. Isaac Guerendo is out. This is awesome. Looking forward to seeing how that rolls out. I will be talking about the 49ers running backs because I got running backs this week. And then Alvin Kamara is doubtful. Kendre Miller got the backfield in New Orleans. What a great thing to just happen for the semifinals. Just change up all the quarterbacks and just take out some running backs. Why not? Let's move on from that. That's the news. Let's talk about a very interesting, semi-productive Thursday night between the Chargers and the Broncos. Not a huge, exciting fantasy production, huh?
Yeah, bit of a weird game. Like high scoring, but like mediocre for pretty much everyone that you started in fantasy. And I don't really know how much we have to take away here. We'll start out. We talked about you got to start Ladd McConkey. He had 14.7 fantasy points. That was, great. I don't know if I'll say great, but he continues to just be a solid contributor for your teams. And so you're fine and you feel solid if you started Lad. 14.7 is great. Both of our risky starts here was Bo Nix, and the risk paid off, and he had 25 fantasy points in like the most like stupid, like not actually passing the football game. Like every pass felt like it was within like 6 yards of the line of scrimmage. I think at one point they said he was averaging like 2.3 air yards per like completion on the game, which means it's just like
Marvin
it was like dump
Mims
offs, and it was like
was part of it. It was a big chunk of it.
So it was weird, but I mean, like if you started Bo Nix, like you're happy, 25 fantasy points is good. And then we said don't start every running back in the game, and then like 4 of the 5 of them had double-digit fantasy points, which was like the most bullshit situation. Because I don't know a single person who started Javonte Williams or Audrey Estime or Gus Edwards or Hassan Haskins. Like it was just
and Michael Burton.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Michael Burton. I'm such an idiot for playing Cortland Sutton when I so obviously should have played Michael Burton, who scored 0.9 more fantasy points.
Are you kidding me? That's all
what
you need.
What an absolute
That's the
dumbass
difference.
I am. Like, what an idiot. I'm just gonna go,
You big loser.
Yeah.
Don't you know this stuff?
Like, what are we doing here? This was just such a weird game. I just like the guys that you play. If you make it through to the finals, you're gonna keep playing them. You're gonna play Ladd. You're gonna play Cortland Sutton, even off of like a bummer game. Like it just like Bo wasn't throwing the football down the field, and so it was like Peyton had on his play sheet the whole like the drawn thing that said like run the ball, and it was like, hey, remember when the Chargers scored 21 unanswered points on you because you wanted to run the ball? Like maybe you should have game planned a little differently for a team that you just saw Mike Evans go crazy against. I'm not bitter at all. I am just, completely bitter. It's just so dumb. It's like,
even with, we go on record for our don't starts and say, don't start any running back in this game. And 4 different halfbacks, running backs, fullbacks.
5 out of 6 people in the running back category.
They score rushing touchdowns. And the only one, in retrospect, if you had a crystal ball and you could decide who to start, would be Gus Edwards with a nice 20 points. But other than that, no one else.
Javonte Williams, 12.3 fantasy points on 4 carries for 24 rushing yards. 11 targets. What are we doing here? Like it's just so
that's like Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, that's an Alvin Kamara stat line.
10 points because of the rushing touchdown.
Yeah. So I mean, Gus Edwards finds the end zone twice, like randomly, that he hasn't done that in over a year, and has his longest run in 5 years. His longest rush that gets him up to a total of 68 rushing yards. So his day is great. Like his day, it's an awesome fantasy day. I don't know anyone who started him, but I don't know. I mean, Bo Nix. I don't know what the matchup is next week. Let me double check that real quick. But I mean, I think if you've been rolling with Bo Nix and you're still at this point, you got Bo Nix against Cincinnati next week. Like, do you feel fine there? You're happy with that? You're happy to see him have a bounce back game?
Yeah, and I like that.
I don't know what more to say about this game. I don't really have a whole lot else.
I told one league I'm in, because obviously we passed the trade deadline, and said Gus Edwards is on the table. He'll cost you a buy-in if you want Gus Edwards, and we can collude that way and make sure you can have him.
Great.
Who's gonna? I don't know. Let's answer now. Fluker, for real? Anyone gonna start Gus Edwards in the championship?
No.
So no. Whatever.
I looked it up. He's scored touchdowns in 2 other games this season. He hasn't cracked 10 fantasy points in those games, even with scoring touchdowns.
Jeez.
So it's like it's such like a fluky performance. So it's just that's all. I mean, it's brief, but that's all I really got from this game. It was such a weird game, and I think we can just move on.
Yeah, I like just a quick reminder again, just to reiterate what you said in case it got lost in everything that we're dissecting from the running backs. Keep starting Loud McConkey, keep starting Cortland
Yeah.
Sutton. If you
Yeah.
make it in the next round, even for for fighting for third place, whatever it is. But
Yeah. If you're
tough outing
competing
that way.
now, you're fighting for third and maybe you have a third place prize in your league. So yeah. Keep rolling the guys out. They'll bounce back with Sutton. They love him, and Bo's got a great connection with him. I just don't know why he wasn't. I honestly couldn't tell you why wasn't throwing the ball down the field in this game. It felt so weird. It felt so strange. Anyways, let's jump into it here. It's the fantasy semifinals. It's time for some studs, and it's time for some duds. 4 studs that you need to have in your lineup can help you win your week and move on to the championship. And 4 duds who are going to ruin your shot at a title. Let's get into it. Quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends. I've got quarterbacks and wide receivers, Wes. You've got running backs and tight ends. Listen, we're approaching this week with studs and duds we're here in the semifinals, okay? We can tell you that Cooper Rush is a dud this week. If you're starting Cooper Rush in your semifinals, you're cooked. I'm sorry. Like I don't like if that information would matter to you and you would walk away with a revelation of going, maybe I shouldn't do that. Yeah, sorry, you're done. But we're trying to give you some matchups, some players here that are going to be on your teams. Okay, that's what we're pushing for here. So I'll start us out with quarterbacks. My quarterback stud for the semifinals of the fantasy football playoffs is Jaden Daniels going up against the Philadelphia Eagles. This matchup is very scary for a lot of people, for a lot of owners. We were talking about it in our Discord over the week, and initially I had my doubts and my fears. And when I went deeper, I feel more confident than I had in a long time with Jaden Daniels. Here's where I went, okay? I went back and looked at the quarterbacks that have faced the Eagles this season. Quarterbacks with over 19 and a half fantasy points against the Eagles this year. So we'll say, can we round up and say 20? Is that fair?
That's fair.
Okay. Quarterbacks with over 20 fantasy points versus the Eagles in 2024 are Jordan Love, Kirk Cousins, Baker Mayfield, Trevor Lawrence, Matthew Stafford, and Lamar Jackson. Quarterbacks with under 20 fantasy points in the season against the Eagles: Derek Carr, Deshaun Watson, Daniel Jones, Joe Burrow, Cooper Rush, Bryce Young, Russell Wilson, and of course, Jaden Daniels back in week 11. Now, when I compare those two lists, with the exception of a couple guys, both lists pretty much lean one way or another. You have the guys that have gone for over 20 fantasy points against the Eagles, all guys who we would consider good or at least solid quarterbacks in the NFL. Then you have the list of guys who have gone under 20 fantasy points against the Eagles, pretty much all guys that we would consider poor NFL quarterbacks, with the exception of a T. Higginless Joe Burrow and Mr. Anxiety Inducer himself, Jaden Daniels. Okay? Here's the facts that we know. Jaden Daniels has been awesome this year. He's averaging 24.2 fantasy points per game. He's had over 21 fantasy points in 10 of his 13 of in 10. He's at over 21 fantasy points in 10 of 13 games this season. And 2 of the 3 games that he didn't score over 21 fantasy points were within the month of him having that rib injury against the Panthers. There are only 5 quarterbacks I would start over Jaden Daniels this week. It's Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts. Here's my main point. Jaden Daniels will not tank your week, and he will absolutely provide the upside for a massive game. I get it. It's win or go home. But at the end of the day, what are you going to be more upset about? Pivoting to another option and Daniels still being awesome on your bench and it ends up pushing you off the cliff 1 week away from being able to compete for a title? Or Jaden Daniels maybe scoring 15 fantasy points this week? I understand. I get it. I do. But I am confidently riding with Jaden Daniels in the semifinals of the fantasy playoffs. I am. Now, that was a lot. Okay. Let me flip things over here to my quarterback dud. And my dud for the week is Tua Tagovailoa. going up against the 49ers. He returned to earth last week, and he was terrible. He was horrible. It was awful. Yeah, we're repping, dude, and it was really bad. 4 turnovers, 5.84 fantasy points. He gets the 49ers this week, and it's the 8th worst matchup for quarterbacks this season. They're allowing the fewest passing yards in the league, and in 14 games, they've only allowed 16 passing touchdowns. And one of them was a reception by Josh Allen, okay? There are a lot of other options available for you instead of the quarterback of a team that has proven time and again that they can't really perform against teams above 500. So Jaden Daniels, I'm staying in the flames. He is my stud for the semifinals, but Tua is my dud.
Fins up, eh? Let's go Dolphins, dude. One more game and we're eliminated. 2024 is our year. Woo! I dropped Tua. I dropped him. I'm in the league where I am in the semifinals. First round bye too. And good thing I didn't have to start Tua. I'm starting Stafford because that's who's available.
And you have Puka, so the stack.
And I got Puka. I'm going to go with that stack right there. I love it.
Yeah, I love it.
And you went all in on Jaden Daniels, and
I certainly
it was
did.
a long conversation in the Discord. So just a reminder, people that want this is like a personal request for our Discord. So if you want like dedicated studs and duds, just hop on over and get a chance to win a James Cook signed jersey. It's signed.
It's signed. And let me say, I just want to add on to this real quick. I am a Jaden Daniels manager. I'm not like saying all this just as stats and stuff like that and like trying to analyze and put this all out for you. This is an emotional play for me. Like, this is an emotional decision. I have Kyler Murray in a great matchup against the Panthers. I don't trust Kyler. There is Jared Goff and Jordan Love on the waiver wire in this league. And I could pick up one of those guys and play them. And I had to look at it and go, do I trust Jaden Daniels? And I do. He's had over 20 points in 10 of his 13 games. He's been awesome. And it's just,
he's been great.
Get in the Discord if you want more of this. Yeah.
Running back stud to help you make the championship round. Everyone loves this guy. He's the 2024 fantasy favorite. It's Bucky Irving. If he's healthy, you roll him out. That's the way we're going to play Bucky Irving in the playoffs, okay? This kid has been phenomenal, okay? He's averaging over 20 points in the last 4 games that he's played, except for one where he got hurt a couple plays in. 21.5 specifically. That's the average points he's getting in fantasy over the last 4 of the last 5 games. Start Bucky Irving. Rachaad White has been doing a lot too, and I know there's excitement behind Mike Evans in chasing this 1,000-yard season, and you can tell Baker Mayfield's going to go for this, but Bucky Irving is absolutely still a starting running back. Go roll him out if he's healthy and ready to go. Don't worry about what the injury status is or how whether he's 100% or not. Go for it. The dud running back that will lose you your shot at playing for the title is obviously Patrick Taylor. Why on earth are you going to roll out a 4th string running back in the playoffs to advance to the championship round? With all due respect and how Kyle Shanahan has drafted and collected a great running back depth chart, there is no way you can tell me there are not 31 running backs you should start over Patrick Taylor. Truthfully, every other starting running back you should logically play over Patrick Taylor. There's no reason. It doesn't matter that Miami has a pretty poor defense and that they've allowed a lot of points to the running backs. And take the Joe Mixon from last week as an outlier. Patrick Taylor is not going to be better than any running back on your roster. He is a dud and will lose you a chance to make the championship round.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Wes, to break the fourth wall here, I mean, full transparency with the trollers, we were talking about studs and duds, and your stud initially was Isaac Guerrero, and then it was like,
yes, it was.
Like, that's the difference we're making here. Like, this is like, no. There's enough of a fall off here that it's like, no, don't take the shot with Patrick Taylor. Patrick Taylor may not even be the right San Francisco running back play on his own team.
I think I've got a dynasty with Israel Benaconda, and I'm
thinking about rolling. Yeah, maybe like it's like a possibility. It's just it's tempting because you've seen
this is
what happened in the
playoffs.
past, but it's
Playoffs? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Playoffs?
Yeah. Let's jump into wide receivers here. My wide receiver stud, again, talking to people who are making these decisions in the semifinals. My wide receiver stud for the semifinals of the fantasy playoffs is Calvin Ridley. It's been a very up and down go of things over the past month or so. Even with a great schedule, it's been tough. You've been in the flames with them. You've started them every week, maybe. It's been up and down. You've been happy some weeks, sad some weeks. But no fear. Will Levis has been moved to the bench. Mason Rudolph is starting. And when Mason Rudolph started week 7 and 9, Calvin Ridley was averaging over 10 targets a game and over 14 fantasy points per game in that stretch. Tony Pollard been dealing with an injury kind of all season and may see some time missed in this upcoming week because of this injury. Finally, he's been powering through, but they may just be rolling with Tajay Spears. I expect more passing game opportunity in this game, and what I don't expect is 15 targets between Chigo Okonkwo and Josh Wiley. That's what I'm not expecting for this upcoming game. Will Levis' experiment is over in Tennessee. They have a full week to scheme and game plan to their best offensive weapon. Calvin Ridley is going to be really, really good this week and help you win your week and move on to a championship. Oh, I forgot I have a dud too. I say that part too. Sorry, I was so content just speaking on Calvin Ridley.
Yeah.
My wide receiver dud. We talked about his quarterback change. It's Darnell Mooney. He's a wide receiver 23 on the season. He's been awesome. He was one of my top sleeper picks this offseason. I couldn't be more happy with how the year has gone. I've loved that. If you listened, we've been able to reap the rewards of that pick. But I'm trying to pivot this week if I can. I'm not overreacting to the goose. I'm not overreacting to a 0-point performance. He's been great. Like, it doesn't worry me. If it was Kirk Cousins, I'd be fine rolling him back out in a flex spot this week. I just don't trust the quarterback play in Michael Penix Jr.'s first ever start. It just worries me a little bit. And if I have another option, if I'm pivoting, maybe you're a Calvin Ridley owner and you're a Darnell Mooney owner. I would obviously pivot to Calvin Ridley there, but I'm trying to find a pivot if I can. I'm just a little bit worried about Mooney seeing the volume and the opportunity that he has in Michael Penix Jr.'s first game, which I truly believe they're going to be in a situation where they don't have to have him throwing the ball more than 30 times in this game. I don't think he'll have that kind of volume. I think they'll be able to run the ball against the Giants, and I just think it's going to be a tough go if things were done on Mooney. So he is my wide receiver dud.
That really throws a wrench in the playoffs, man. I mean, what if this affects Bijan? What if Bijan just gets 8 points because Michael Penix decides to throw it 90 times?
Or what if this suddenly is Bijan is a league winner? Like, what if Bijan suddenly is he's getting 25, 30 opportunities a game, like that kind of thing. Like, he obviously has been great, but yeah.
Who knows? It's such a very interesting game. Just for fantasy purposes, I'm so curious about this Falcons and Giants game, and then just the real NFL outcome. It's very fascinating. And Darnell Mooney has been boom or bust in a lot of ways. I also wouldn't have overreacted to the goose egg. I'm in complete agreement that it is because of Michael Penix Jr. that you got to look at someone else. Tight ends, studs and duds. Here's my tight end to help you advance to the championship round. He's pairing up with Noah's stud quarterback. Zach Ertz must be in your lineup if you got him. Okay? He has been on fire the last 3 games. And in last week's game, tough outing for him with an exit due to concussion. He's been bouncing back in the practices to try to make his way to play against his former team, the Eagles. And when he played the Eagles, it was really scary for a moment, but this guy scored 18.7 points in full PPR against the Eagles, and I think he can do something very, very similar this week. 3 straight weeks with double digits and a touchdown before last week's game where he left the concussion. Zach Ertz, I think, should continue to be in your lineup. I know a lot of people were hurt by Zach Ertz. A lot of people lost because they wanted more from Zach Ertz and they couldn't advance to the next round. But if you're in the next round and you got Zach Ertz, you got to roll him out, man. This is such a big game for the Commanders and a big game for Zach Ertz and Jaden Daniels. I'm firing him up if I've got him. Here's my dud. No one more fitting to put as the tight end dud based on the way this year has gone. You know who's going to lose you your chance to play in the championship? Mark freaking Andrews. Why not? I'll tell you exactly why you shouldn't start him. First of all, just remember what he did to you the first 6-7 weeks of the season. Don't forget that he was a droppable player, okay? He's had a nice stretch, but it's been pretty deceptive. It's been very deceptive. In fact, he's never scored a double-digit game without a touchdown. He's only scored 20 points once. That's not the Mark Andrews we're used to. This guy is getting 15 points maximum. That's his ceiling. That's Mark Andrews' ceiling right now. 15 points with a touchdown, okay? I don't care that there's name value. I don't care that he's done fine here and there. He's going to lose you your week. You know why? Because he's playing the Steelers. No, not because the Steelers have a good defense, because he's only ever scored more than 13 points twice against the Steelers in his career. Yeah, drafted by the Ravens, has stayed there in that AFC North division. He's played Steelers twice a year. Most times he's missed a couple of games here and there in his career against them, but this guy doesn't do well against the Steelers, and he hasn't been doing well all season. So do not trick yourself into thinking Mark Andrews is going to help you play in that title. This guy is going to lose you your week. Do not start Mark Andrews.
Compelling. Some compelling stuff there. I went and double checked because I'm a Zach Ertz manager. Had to hit the waiver wire for Brenton Strange this week, just because I was a little worried if Ertz would return. Obviously, I have Jaden Daniels, so I've loved the stack and getting those double points on touchdowns. But upgraded to a limited participant on Thursday, so was from a DNP to a limited. I assume we'll hear. I'm fingers crossed on it, but we'll definitely see what happens. So
not to downplay the severity of a concussion, but this is much different than any kind of muscle injury. It's
definitely.
If he's good to go, he's 100%. It's not like he's going to have a nagging concussion.
Absolutely,
on Sunday. So very, very different.
As a Cedric Tillman manager, I'm terrified because it was it's just a concussion on Thursday Night Football. He'll be back next week, and then it was it's a month. Where is Cedric Tillman?
As a Malik Neighbors owner, I was out without him for 2 straight weeks, and I was like, what? This is a concussion. Yeah. What do you mean? So
definitely,
that's it.
There it is. Semifinals. Drop it in the comments. Let us know who your start-sit decisions are for your semifinals. Let us know. We are always happy to answer those questions. Anything you have, join our Discord if you want perhaps an even quicker response and more back and forth between it as well. It's always a good spot. And you can win a signed James Cook jersey. So have a blast there. We'll see you guys on Tuesday. This is Godspeed. This is a weekend full of football. We got football on Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We'll see you guys on Tuesday with another episode of 4th and Troll Fantasy as we will prepare for the fantasy championships. My name is Noah Selby.
And I'm Wes Selby.
And this has been 4th and Troll Fantasy. 4th and Troll Fantasy is a production of FQ Media Group and Selby Artistic Workshop.